Welcome back to the Junk Room, everybody. That's right, Junkman here. Still with COVID, but I feel a little better. I just feel like I got a cold. I don't really feel sick. I feel congested and everything. I feel more lazy than normal. I just can't get motivated, but I brought myself up here to the Junk Room to do a video. Today we're going to look at why did the Playmate toys succeed when it came to Star Trek The Next Generation, yet when Galoob made Star Trek The Next Generation figures, they failed at the toy store. How did one get it so right, while this other company got it so wrong?
Hey y'all, it's me, Dusty. I'm the new hire. I haven't been able to say hey to y'all yet. Been kind of working behind the scenes like I am today. I just want to say, shucks, it's really great to be here, and I hope you'll check out my Instagram page at Dusty Life. Yep, Instagram at Dusty Life. We're gonna have a lot of fun, y'all, so let's get back to the Junkman. I don't even know what he's talking about.
So let's get into this. Why did Playmates do so well with Star Trek: The Next Generation, while Galoob released figures from Star Trek: The Next Generation that tanked at the stores? There's a lot of reasons. Again, I've came up with 5 of them, and maybe you'll agree, maybe you'll disagree. But let's start at the top of my list at number 5. They just didn't look that good. They looked kind of cheap when it came to Galoob. Well, versus the Playmate ones, they look really well. Now, I've seen some people criticize the Playmate Star Trek figures. I don't know why. They look just like the actors. They look really well done. Sure, when they sit down, they get a huge thigh gap. They're not perfect, but overall, for action figures, they look really well done and look a lot like the actors they're trying to represent. Galoob, on the other hand, they look kind of cheap. They're small, a little too small, I think. And although some of the figures look really good, I think the Picard looks really great, some figures are really odd choices they went with that look nothing like the characters. Let's look at Q. And here's the Q figure. To me, it's probably the strangest of them all. He's wearing all black, although I think he's supposed to be in his judge outfit as seen in the first episode. Where he's wearing the red robes. He's wearing the red gloves, but here he's not wearing the robes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he ever takes the robes off when we see him wearing all black, but he's wearing the hat. It just makes no sense. It's almost like Galoob said, hey, let's put a plastic robe on him that can come off if needed. And then they said, hey, we don't have enough money for that. Just take the robe off. It's very odd. And let's look at his face. Q might be considered a villain, if you want to call him that, but he's always lovable and charming. This figure has the face of an angry grandmother. And probably the oddest of it is Data. There was 4 variations of the Data action figure released, and all 4 got it wrong. Data was one of the main crew members, and you had to get this figure right. Yet they never could. The face really doesn't look like Data, and they kept trying to fix this by changing the paint scheme of the face, but never could get the color of Data right. Or at times, even just putting black dots all over his face. That one I really can't understand at all. But even the color's not right. The look just doesn't look like the actor. And another thing to save costs, you know what Galoob did that Playmates didn't do? They made the gun into the mold of the figure's hand. That's right. So if you're playing your Picard, your Riker, your Data, how them walk around the Enterprise, they're all ready to fire their phaser at someone. They're always in attack mode. Didn't make any sense. Playmates released the figures with a weapon that could be placed in hand or taken out of hand. Now, I wasn't a fan that it always had a laser pumping out of it, but it was more fun than having a laser always in the hand. Now, I'm guessing Galoob thought the phaser was too small and kids would choke on it, so they had to have a phaser with a figure, so they just molded it in the hand. Would have been nice if made the hand removed and it had the hand, you could switch the hands out, but back in this time, people wasn't doing that. But I think overall, the look of the figures just didn't grab the imagination of kids that were into Star Trek or even Star Trek collectors at the time. They just looked kind of cheaply done, although some of them look great, and it seems like there was some love done to this line. Overall, they just came off as a little too cheap. But now, let's go to number 4. For the release of the Series 1 Playmate Star Trek line, we got a good mixture between bad guys and the crew members. For Series 1 of Galoob, we got 6 figures, and they were all crew members. There were no one for the crew members to fight with. As you can see, you needed something for kids to interact with when they're buying these figures to get them excited about buying the figures. Now, by Series 2 the following year, they did throw in some aliens, but Series 1 needed more than just a crew member. If they were going to limit themselves to just 6 figures, they should have done Riker, Picard, and Data, and then thrown in 3 aliens. You could have done Q if you count that as a villain. While Playmates kicked off the series with a mixture of both, Galoob didn't. Also, let's go back to those Series 2 that Galoob did release. We got Q, again, odd looking Q, but we have Q. We have Ferengi. You can kind of understand the release of that. But for the last 2 aliens, you have this weird looking lizard guy that looks like he's from V, not Star Trek. And you have this weird looking dog creature that looks like something from Battlestar Galactica. Now, I've watched a lot of Star Trek Next Generation, and even I have a hard time remembering these 2 aliens. But you can see, even if they did release some bad guys for Series 2, Q, okay, great. Ferengi, great. They were trying to establish them as the villains of the show, although they're horrible. I hate Ferengis. I hate them. But then, that snake guy, that wolf-looking dog thing, it was just a crazy pick. So let's go on to number 3. Galoob was just a small toy company. I know you're thinking, hey, Junkman, what are you talking about? They made Micro Machines. That was a huge hit. Everyone loved Galoob. Well, in 1988, when it comes to the action figure market, Galoob was still a smaller company, and they didn't have the resources or the time that a big company like Mattel or Hasbro would have. If they were a bigger company, they could have probably synced a little bit more money, getting more than just 6 figures released. That way you get the basic crew members plus some aliens. And they would also probably have enough money to invest to let the series grow a little bit along with the show. But Galoob, being a small company in the action figure market, they were fighting with retailers about spaces in the store, fighting with Paramount about the rights to the figure line. I think Paramount was taking about 11% of the sales. So as I said, if this was a bigger company, they probably could have had more money to invest in it and hung around until it really kicked off. And as for Playmates, by the mid-90s, they were a powerhouse in action figures. They had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, one of the biggest action figure lines ever. So they had the retail space and the big company clout. Although it wasn't as huge as, say, Hasbro, Mattel, when it came to action figure, they were a driving force in the market. So let's go to number 2. Too soon. The Galoob figures just came too soon. Let's be honest about it. Playmates got really lucky by releasing the figures at the boom of the collector's market. In the 90s, adults collecting action figures really took off, and Playmates took advantage of this, releasing figures that were each numbered. That way collectors would look for the lowest number on the foot. Even those not into Star Trek would find themselves at the store looking at Star Trek figures thinking, hey, that's a low foot number, I can resell that or trade it for something else in my collection. Playmates really knew to go after the collector. When Galoob released Series 1 and Series 2, there was really no collector market. Sure, you had the Star Trek collector market, but you didn't have the boom of the action figure market the way you did in the 90s. So Galoob was using their old market standard, make toys for the kids that like Star Trek, and maybe pick up some Star Trek collectors along the way. But Playmates knew, sure, the kids would buy if they liked the show, but they wanted to draw in those collectors also. And they were really great at marketing toward the collectors. Now, let's look at number 1 reason why Galoob failed, but Playmates didn't when it came to Star Trek. Too soon. Junkman, you already done too soon. Is that COVID getting to you? Nope, a different too soon. The Galoob figures just got released too soon. They got released at the release of Next Generation. Well, they got released in 88, with the show starting in 87, but they already started working on the figures before the show was even aired, and before the show even found its real audience. Now, Season 1 did good in the ratings. It got about 8.55 million viewers for the first season. For Season 2, it jumped to 9.14 million, and the show was steadily growing, with its breakout year coming in Season 4 with 10.48 million viewers. You got to remember, these are pretty high numbers. And we're talking about a show that was in syndication, not on network television. And it wasn't like syndication at a certain time and day. One area might get Star Trek at 3 o'clock on a Monday. Another area might get Star Trek Friday at 7. It all depended on what market you lived in when you got to see Star Trek. So these are pretty solid numbers. Even if these were on network, they would be good numbers. They were great numbers for syndication. At the time, it was the only new syndication show out there. And Galoob released their figures with that Series 1, where you still had a lot of the old Star Trek fans saying, that's not my Star Trek, waiting for the show to really capture the audience. But Playmates released their figures right around the time of Season 5, their biggest season of them all, with 11.50 million viewers that season. And at this time, Playmates had a lot to go on. They knew what episodes were fans' favorites, so they could work on those. They knew what seasons fans loved the most, so they could work on figures from those. And they had the established characters, they had the villains, and the audience was there. The audience was falling in love with Star Trek, bringing in a whole lot of new fans that didn't consider themselves Star Trek fans before falling in love with the Next Generation. Again, going back to Galoob, they were limited. Hey, we know we got to make the crew members. Everything else after that was a guess. Would the dog-faced alien be a hit? Would fans like Q? What about this Ferengi guy? Will we ever see him again? Galoob had to do a lot of guessing. You can say they guessed right or they guessed wrong, but as you can see, they didn't have as much information of what the fans wanted as Playmates did in the 90s. And even after season 4, the ratings for the Next Generation would slip a little bit. Even 4 years after the show went off the air, it was still raking in about 9 million views per year. Playmates was riding that Star Trek Next Generation plastic toy train. Anyway, that's a look at why I think Galoob failed while Playmates didn't. Of course, there's a lot of reasons why, but those are probably the basic reasons right there. If I missed something, let me know in the comments, or if I'm really off base on some of this, let me know also. But I just want to thank you guys for all the well wishes of me trying to get over this COVID thing. Again, I don't feel too bad. Just kind of feel lazy more than normal and a little stuffy and congested feeling. But thank you for all the wishes out there. I guess that's it, guys. I guess that's it. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Star Trek Galoob or Star Trek Playmates. Really, do people really don't like Playmates figures? Think they look bad? I don't understand that one. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching. Thumb up so you like my content. Subscribe to the channel. We will talk again soon.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.